Hey guys, Phil Balmart here. So what I got here is a piece of mild steel. So this is something that I bought for another project, and it's got this cutout here from where I sawed it off, and I'm going to use that as my preform for making a Bowie knife. So mild steel really isn't suitable for making knives out of because it will not harden and hold an edge, but for kind of these stage combat purposes as a movie prop, I think it'll do just fine. So I'm going to see if I can just make this into a big old Bowie. So I'll get this hot and see what I can make. Okay, so I'm going to leave this shape as it is now. I've even got a little bit of the handle in there, so once this cools down, I'll saw it off there, try to straighten it up, and then maybe do some final tweaking. But that's basically the rough shaping of it. Okay, so here's what the knife is looking like after the bench grinder there. And now I'm just going to continue cleaning this up with this new belt grinder that my uncle got for me. Somebody was throwing it out, I guess, so he snagged it for me. It appears to be a 1x42 inch belt. I'm still kind of getting the hang of it and everything like that. So this is what the one side looks like after cleaning up on this. So pretty happy with what I'm able to do with this now. So still getting the hang of this thing, so we'll get going on this side and we'll see what we can do. So you can see that the belt grinder was doing a good deal better job than, say, the work sharp grinder that I'd previously been using, but it still wasn't all that great, and there were still some hammer marks and forge marks that I couldn't get out. So what I ended up deciding on doing was putting it back in the forge so it would have that fire scale look, and then the steel that I polished off would make it look like it had a more distinct edge bevel. And also I think the overall design and profile of the knife looked better from my artistic standpoint. So I've got the holes for the handle pins drilled out, and while I've got the knife here, I'm going to try making a Spanish notch. It's something I've always wanted to try to do. So right in here where the blade meets the tang, I'm going to draw out a hole and then use my hacksaw to expand that into a notch. Okay, so here's a look at the finished knife. Big old stage combat Bowie. So the movie that I intended to make this for, it's called Jack London, Son of the Wolf. There's currently a Facebook page if you want to find out more about the movie, but it's based on Jack London's short story called Son of the Wolf. And in that short story there is a knife fight, of all things, between the main character and then an Indian who's called the Bear. So that's why this is called the Bear Bowie knife. And so in that short story it says that it's a Russian blade, and so I didn't really have an idea of what a Russian knife would look like in that time period, which is supposed to be 1898. So with this kind of curved shape, there are a good number of Bowies that look like this without the guard, and they have kind of a neat curve to it. So there are historical examples that look like this, and I also thought this kind of resembled a shashka, a Russian shashka, which is a single-edged sword. I thought it kind of resembled that in appearance, so I feel like it was very motivated for the story itself. And so with that being said, I'm happy with the way this turned out. With that kind of full tang construction, it's got a real good balance to it. You can really whip it around, which I like. Of course, this whole thing is dull, but this is meant to be like a back cut, so you can use that as a kind of defensive or offensive move. Somebody's knife hand coming in the strike, and you can whip it over and lay him open with that back cut. So unfortunately I'm not the fight director or stunt coordinator on this film, and the other day we did some choreography for it, and I was just sort of there as a bystander pretty much, because I had some neat ideas with how this should be used, and the fight director kind of had his own ideas, and so it's more of a kind of a classic Hollywood knife fight, I guess you could say. Not really using it in kind of its biggest potential, you know. He didn't really use it, you know, as Bowie knives should be used, unfortunately. Because basically, so that little notch that's on there, that was on the preform of the steel, just left over from that previous project that I had. So that was kind of an accident, but I did leave it there intentionally, because if you look at the Bowie knife called the Moore Bowie, which is allegedly belonged to Jim Bowie. There's multiple knives that may have belonged to Jim Bowie, but this one had a little notch right up there at the end of the back cut, and so the theory there is that with a opposing blade, if you're squared off and you're kind of feeling each other out, if you're close enough, you can kind of hook it and throw it. Just that little bit of contact, you can have control over their blade, and you move in and make your own cut. So it's not something to lock them up or anything like that, but it's just if it's there, you hook it, boom. I don't know how practical that is, but as a movie trope, I thought that was pretty neat. And then there's also that little ricasso down there, that Spanish notch. I put that in there just to kind of delineate between the blade and the handle, just to kind of just for looks, really, to make it look more like a professional blade. But the idea there is that since it doesn't have a guard, if you happen to go blade to blade, which I never intended these to go blade to blade, but you can see by the nicks there that the fight director had us doing, or had the actors doing knife parries, unfortunately. But if you go blade to blade and the blade slides down, there's a chance, it's not a 100% chance, but see that? One would have cut my finger, but this, you can catch it in there, and it's just kind of a small protection for your hand. Not something I'd count on, and again, it's really more for looks, but there is some function behind that. And this knife here that I've been using for demo, this is going to be the next video. This is going to be the main character's knife for the Son of the Wolf. So a little preview of that. And so I wanted them to have very distinct look, so that, you know, even though it's made out of the same steel, same handle material, both knives had a distinct profile for each of the characters, so they looked like they came from different places. But anyways, enough of my rambling. Hope you guys enjoyed this little video. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram to kind of keep up, see what's new. And if you want to help support the Forge, you can check out my Etsy web store. I'm selling knives and also little things like chainmail knife lanyards if you want one of those. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, and until next time, be more Viking.